If your calendar is full of meetings but nothing actually changes after them, this video is for you. I work as a product manager, and not that long ago, I was literally the intern in the corner taking notes and staying late after every single meeting. Last week, I decided to completely flip that. For 5 workdays, I tried letting AI handle all of my meeting follow-ups, turning every single meeting note into action items, assigning owners, and drafting recap emails for the entire team. In this video, I'll show you exactly the workflow I used, what worked, what completely broke, and what I'm going to keep doing moving forward. And just to be clear, I can't show you real meetings for my job, so everything you'll see on screen uses fake project data, but the workflow is exactly how I'm using AI in the real world. All right, before we begin, let me set the stage here. Normally, my meeting game is inconsistent at best. Some meetings I get perfect where I have meeting notes, action items, decisions, and next steps. Others, I close the call, I open Teams, and I just move on. A week later, everybody's then asking me where the meeting notes are, what the next steps are, and what we decided on that call. So for this week, I gave myself a very simple challenge. For the whole week, anytime I was responsible for follow-ups from a meeting, I had to run it through the AI workflow first. I set myself 3 rules for this week. Rule number 1 was that AI had to produce the first draft of summary, decisions, and action items. Rule number 2 was that I can edit and override anything that AI produced, but I'm not allowed to start from scratch. Rule number 3 was if anything looked wrong or off, I just won't send it. And again, in this video, I'm using fake data, fake projects, fake names to keep everything confidential, but I'm actually walking you through the entire workflow that I used during this week. Before going into the week, I decided to plan ahead. I set up a super simple baseline workflow, nothing fancy, super simple, no automation tools. It's just stuff that anybody can do. The workflow looks something like this. Step 1 was to capture the actual meeting. During the call, I would take rough bullet point notes in a Google Doc or a Notion page. If there was a transcript available for that meeting, it would be a huge bonus. Step number 2 was to feed it into the AI system with a structured prompt. So right after the meeting, I would paste those rough notes into an AI tool like ChatGPT, Gemini, Notion AI, whatever was available, and use a structured prompt like this. You are my personal meeting assistant. I'm going to give you rough notes from a meeting, which you can then summarize in 3 to 5 bullet points. Make sure to list all the decisions that were made, list all the action items with owners, actions, and due dates if mentioned, and highlight any open questions or risks that still need to be resolved. Step number 3 in this AI workflow was to turn the output into actual structured tasks and a recap. From the AI output, I would turn the action items into tasks in my system. Then I would ask the AI to draft an email or a Slack message for the team to use as a summary for the decisions and actions that it just created. Lastly, and most importantly, I would review, fix, and then send. This was just a starting point. But the interesting part is what happened when I tried to live with this AI workflow for the entire week. On day 1, I used this exact workflow on a pretty standard weekly project sync that I had. It's the kind of meeting where people give small updates, a few decisions get made, and usually nothing gets written down. I took my rough notes, pasted them into AI with that prompt, and honestly, the results were surprisingly good. It pulled out a short summary that actually sounded like what we talked about in that call. It listed decisions that included things like we will ship version 1 without feature X and a few other things like that, and gave a clean action list with names attached. I asked it to then turn it into a recap email, and in a few minutes, I had something that I could actually send out to the entire project team. I made a few small edits and added one nuance that I missed, and that was about it. In that moment, I actually felt like I had a junior assistant who stayed with me after the meeting to clean things up. So day 1, all in all, was a good win in the books, but it definitely didn't stay that smooth in day 2 and 3. By day 2 and 3, some of the cracks really start to show. There were 3 main failures that kept coming up in day 2 and 3. Failure number 1 was that in open-ended discussions like strategy sessions or brainstorming sessions, my notes were a lot messier and the conversation was a lot less structured, and the AI really struggled with that. It tried to extract decisions where there really weren't any. So it would say things like decision, we will explore options A and B, when in reality, that was just a discussion and not a commitment. So I had to be very careful not to treat everything it labeled as a decision as gospel. And I found myself manually deleting or editing a lot of those sections. Failure number two is that the AI kept assigning the wrong owners to the action item or tasks. So sometimes my notes would say things like, we should test X without a clear name attached, and the AI would just leave the owner section blank or invent something vague like the team. As anybody who works in product knows, is that is dangerous. If everyone owns it, then nobody owns it and the work never gets done. So I ended up making it a rule that I never trust the AI's owner field unless I explicitly wrote the owner's name in my notes. I'd rather manually assign owners than let something slip through by labeling it the team's responsibility. Failure number three is around tone and nuance. So, in certain meetings, especially the ones where things were a bit intense or we were discussing risks, the recap that the AI system drafted sounded either too casual or too robotic. It was technically correct, but it didn't really reflect the emotional tone of the conversation. So I had to step in and rewrite parts of the email to soften the phrases, add reassurances, or avoid throwing anybody under the bus. So by midweek, I actually realized that AI is great at structure, but it's not really great at understanding the politics or the emotions inside of a meeting. It wasn't all broken though. There were a few specific areas where AI absolutely earned its keep. Firstly, status style meetings. For reoccurring project updates where the format is similar every single week, this workflow worked like a cheat code. The AI almost always got the summary and decisions right, and the action items were mostly accurate because those meetings were a lot more concrete. It let me send recaps the same day instead of waiting for whenever I got around to it. Secondly, pulling out risks and open ended questions. This became my favorite part of the prompt because even in messy meetings, it often resurfaced things like risk, timeline may slip if dependency X is delayed, or open question, who will own communication to stakeholder Y? Those lines became super useful for follow ups with stakeholders or flagging things in future meetings. Thirdly, it helped me beat perfectionism. Because I had such a structured draft in front of me, it was much easier to spend just a couple of minutes editing and sending it instead of procrastinating it for the whole hour. Psychologically, going from 0 to 1 is super difficult, but because of the AI, going from 80% to 95% was way easier. So after a full week of this, here's where I landed. I'm not going to use AI to handle every single one of my meetings forever. That's completely overkill, but I am going to keep it as a default for certain types of meetings. Things like recurring project syncs, one-on-ones with a lot of small follow-ups, and any meeting where I'm the one responsible for communicating next steps. I'm keeping this AI system to help me draft the structure, extract the decisions and action items, as well as highlight any risks and open-ended questions, but I'm also keeping my own brain for deciding which decisions are real, assigning the right owners, and adjusting the tone based off who I'm sending this to and who are the stakeholders involved. In other words, AI is kind of like my chief of staff, but it's actually more like the intern version of me from a few years ago, where it's helping me do the grunt work and I do the final pass and send it out. If you want to try this yourself, here's how I do it without leaking anything or getting in trouble. Step 1. Pick one recurring meeting that always generates follow up work. Don't start with the most sensitive or political meeting. Pick something super low risk. Step 2 is to take rough notes like you'd normally do. They don't have to be pretty, just make sure you capture everything you said and any obvious decisions. Step 3 is to recreate a safe version for AI and for practice. If you work in a sensitive environment, change the names, remove client details, and strip out anything confidential before you paste it into your AI tool. Step 4 is to use a structured prompt like the one I showed you to get summaries, decisions, and action items and open ended questions. And step 5 is to edit ruthlessly before you send anything to your team. Never treat the AI output as final, you are still accountable for what goes out. Try that for one meeting this week and see if it actually makes your life easier. If you found this helpful and you want more real world AI workflows from someone who's actually using this stuff at work, not just 10 cool AI tools, hit like and subscribe. I'm still learning and experimenting as I go, but I'll keep sharing what's actually sticking in my day to day as a product person. In a future video, I'm planning to push this even further and see what happens if I try to use AI as a sort of chief of staff for an entire week, helping me decide what to focus on each day, not just recapping meetings. If that sounds interesting, let me know in the comments what part of your job you'd want AI assistance for. Meetings, email, research, or something else. Thank you so much for watching.